Hi everyone, this is Kerim Baran with Solar Academy. Today I am here with Meghan Wood of Raya Power. And before we start our conversation, I just want to say how excited I am because, full disclosure, I am an investor in Raya Power through my good friends at Cyan Ventures. Steve and David introduced me to Raya, and I did make a small investment about a year ago, I think. And great to have you, Megan. And we're going to talk a lot about what is at the frontier for solar at the lower end of the market. Solar is an appliance. A lot of us have heard of balcony solar. Raya is bringing a totally new approach to bring solar to all households across the US and beyond. And with that, Nicole, great to have you. I'm sorry, Megan, great to have you. And we don't have Nicole here. I was really also another point about you guys is two female entrepreneurs out of Stanford. I was really excited to back you guys. My mother was an entrepreneur. Actually, her first partner was my aunt. So, growing up in Turkey to entrepreneur mom and aunt was special for me. And I'm really excited to back you guys in the solar space. So tell me a little bit about your background, your partner Nicole's background, and how you guys met and how this whole journey started. Let's start from there and then dive deeper into what you guys do.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for having me today. And sorry Nicole couldn't join. I'll have to tell her story as best as I can. We're so excited to have you supporting us and the Cyan team. They've been awesome. And just excited to get the chance to build this. So, a bit more about us. I'm Megan. I'm the CEO and co-founder. I started my career as a management consultant at Bain in Toronto. So, I grew up in Canada. And
Mhm.
while I was there, I started learning about energy systems and got so excited about renewables and what they could do for us, but didn't feel like there was anyone around me who had adopted renewables. No one had solar that I knew. I mean, Toronto isn't the best place for it, but I wanted to learn more. And so that brought me to Stanford, where I did an MBA alongside a Master's of Science in Renewable Energy. And the more I learned about renewable energy, the more I became obsessed with solar. To me, it was this incredible tech we had figured out where this physical asset can bring you financial benefit. You know, you could pitch people on instead of putting your money in the stock market, buy a solar panel. Like to me, that was a
Yeah.
no-brainer. And that doesn't happen with really anything you can sell. I thought, if I could sell anything, it's something that pays off. Like that's got to sell itself.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I love that about solar. And I started to learn about all the barriers and what was hindering it from happening. And so did a bunch of brainstorming of how do we make that better and started to spend a lot of time in different startup classes. And that's kind of my journey there. I can get deeper into the product. But while I was doing that and becoming the solar nerd among my friends, I was at a wedding during my MBA, and someone said to me, Megan, you have to meet the other solar nerd, Nicole. And I was like, no way, someone
Also
else.
from Stanford at the same wedding in
Yes,
Mexico, if I remember correctly, right?
exactly. Yes.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
Nicole's husband's Brazilian, and he was the year above me at the MBA. And my roommate was Brazilian, so all the Brazilians were invited. And the wedding
Yeah.
was in Mexico because she was marrying a man from Mexico. And so we met there, and Nicole and I just chatted for hours about solar and how like there had to be a better way to get it to people. Why wasn't everywhere?
Yeah.
And we went back to campus then and kept brainstorming, and that was kind of the start of our relationship. But let me rewind and tell you about Nicole quickly because she's not here. But Nicole
Yeah.
started her career at NASA at the Jet Propulsion
Yeah.
Lab, and she was working on the Mars rover as an electrical engineer. And while
Mhm.
she was there in 2017, Hurricane Maria hit Puerto Rico. And that's where Nicole's from. So all her family was there, and she lost connection with them, didn't know if anyone was okay, couldn't hear from them, and just had this, terrible silence. And
Yeah.
after all that happened, like the thought she had was, I'm sending solar panels to space and I can't get them to my family who desperately needs them. And
Mhm.
so that's what kickstarted Nicole's journey. And she actually came to Stanford to do a master's in product design. And so she wanted to think of how do we design better products that meet people where they're at and can actually deliver this. So we had this like incredible matching of skills where I had the business side and was thinking about like customer acquisition costs and how we made that all better. And Nicole was thinking on product design. How do people like actually make this fit into their lives if they don't own their home or they don't have a new roof? Um, and we've been building ever since. It's been a lot of fun.
Yeah. So, were you guys at the design school too, or one of you maybe?
Nicole
Like
went.
you did use some of your learnings from that
Yeah, so
empathetic design
Nicole,
approach to design something for the segment that you're designing the solution for, obviously. Yeah.
yeah, exactly. So she was part of a course called Design for Extreme Affordability, and she actually co-taught it afterwards for a little bit or as a guest
Wow.
lecturer. And a lot of that is how do you work with people to design something they actually want, and typically for the extremes that aren't designed for. And the
Yeah.
theory is when you design for that, it then works for everyone else.
Right.
Versus when you design for, one majority, it doesn't actually work for everyone else. And so
Mm.
that was really interesting in the early days. A lot of our product design was iteration with customers, and we'd like get them into the funnel. We'd go anywhere. I'd stand outside grocery stores. I'd like knock on, I went around Puerto Rico and like talked to all the mayors. And I was like, why don't you have more solar? Please talk to me. Found all these ways to get customers in the funnel. We did that in California. I drove around Fresno for a while.
Yeah.
And basically through calls, through Zooms, we would say, what do you think of this? And what about this? And, what's your pain point now? How would this work? And that's all the little inputs that actually came into making our product a reality.
Yeah. So tell me about the problem, the problem you're solving and why solar doesn't work for everyone right now. I mean, probably in the US, we are at like 7 million homes out of 100 plus million households. Not
Yeah.
bad penetration, but probably 20 times what it was 15 years ago. Great, but mostly what we see is wealthier homes adopting solar, but not the folks with the lower income. So tell us a little bit about like how you're fixing broken
Yeah.
parts.
So the main things we heard from people and why you don't have solar, one is home ownership. Obviously, you need to own your home. Two
Yeah,
is even if you do own your home, either knowing you're going to stay there for the payback to make sense, or being sure that it's going to increase your, resale value, which
yeah,
depends. Like maybe now is growing, but wasn't as convincing before.
yeah,
Three is financially, either being able to pay upfront or being able to
yeah,
get an effective lease from your credit
yeah,
score. Um, and so all of those reasons, like even if you did own your home or even have a new roof, I guess is the other main one. So if your roof wasn't new,
yeah,
sometimes now you had to redo your roof, and that's adding another 10, 20, whatever it is into
yeah,
$1,000 into the system cost.
yeah,
Those are all reasons why people couldn't access this. And so even the people who could, though, if you look at the unit economics of solar, resi solar, about 25% is the customer acquisition costs. So solar companies are spending like $5,000 to get a customer.
yeah,
And it's because you're really convincing someone to do a construction project, right? It's custom
yeah,
design, roof installation, permits. So the process takes long. And so it's easy for people to fall out of the funnel, especially people who aren't thinking about their bill very often. And like mostly, as
yeah,
you mentioned, we've sold solar to wealthier homeowners. So it's not like the main pain point of their month.
yeah,
So it's easier for people to fall out. And then also you have to pay your salespeople a lot because the product's not super differentiated. And so it's really the relationship you get with the customer. So these things all add up to this customer acquisition cost being $5,000. And I just couldn't fathom that we were wasting that on trying to get this awesome technology to people.
yeah,
So my point of view is the only way to actually get over that was to reduce customer acquisition costs, which means we need a totally different way for people to adopt this technology, even if they could adopt it today. So to us, that meant how do you make it no custom design? So you're not designing something specifically for someone's roof, no roof install or construction project. Let's not have to go through permitting there. What if we could avoid utility permitting as well and not have to wait months for PG&E to approve the solar system? What if it was, one size fits all? So there's an aftermarket. You could sell it to someone else. You could move with it. And how do we make that intro price much lower so it's easier to just say yes? And all of those, we figured if we can nail that, then we're really selling the hardware rather than this additional huge soft cost. And that lets us be this new product in the market that's more consumer led. Um,
uh, so hence the solar appliance concept. So it's like a plug and play in your backyard, and you guys, your product goes in the backyard. It's not necessarily like balcony solar that just you put in your balcony and feed into your outlet. So let's go into the details of the product a little bit. Like how is it Let's talk a little bit about balcony solar, why that's taken off in places like Germany and Pakistan, and then why that is not taken off in the US, and how is your product different?
Yeah, great question. So I initially got really excited about balcony solar like 2 or 3 years ago, before anyone in the US was really talking about it. And I dug deep into what happened in Germany, and really there was this massive increase in electricity prices from the war that was happening in Ukraine, which led people to like desperately look for solutions and started plugging these systems in. But the great movement they had alongside that was a regulatory one where their equivalent of our UL standards created a standard for everyone to say, here's how much electricity you can backfeed into your home safely anywhere. And that's when it really took off. What we're seeing recently in the US, and maybe just to take even a step further back, what is balcony solar? As you mentioned,
What's backfeed
yeah,
also,
what is
right?
backfeed?
Yeah.
So you basically take a solar panel, put on your balcony. It has a microinverter on the back, so it can convert to AC power that you need in your home.
Yeah.
And you really plug the plug into an outlet, a normal outlet that you have, and it sends that solar energy back through your home. And that's when we say backfeeding. It's actually going
Yeah.
through your existing wires to fuel anything in
Help.
the home that's being run.
So basically, to help turn your meter backwards, if your home wasn't using any power, technically it would turn your meter backwards, would it?
That
Or
I'm not sure if you actually get paid for. I've heard in some
no, you
pilot.
don't get paid for, but it
Right.
still might turn it backwards, I
Oh, it
think, right?
might actually, yes, it might turn
Yeah.
the number backwards.
Yeah.
Yeah, and but
Or
I
if it
have
is consuming, let's say, 5 kilowatts at that moment, you have two panels, that will bring it down to four. So you'll consume one or
right. You're really reducing what you're
yeah,
pulling from the grid because you're
yeah,
able to use some from that solar panel.
right.
And so that's possible. There is a downside, which is if you're not home during the day and you're not using it, I do think you lose it unless you have a battery connected to it.
And the risk I've heard is that that could also create too much friction and cause fire if it's not sized right. But
Right. So that's kind of the main thing that I'm watching to see when when that changes in the US from a regulatory point of view. So
yeah.
in Germany, this body said you could backfeed 800 watts. In the US, we've
Oh, up
had
to 800 watts. Okay,
up to
so
800 watts is in Germany. Yeah. And
okay,
then
got it.
in the US, we've had really exciting movement on the political point of view from reducing interconnection hurdles. So that means if you did flow electricity back to the utility, you don't need an agreement there. And so that's been exciting to see. But what I haven't seen move yet is that National Electric Code or UL rule of how much can you actually backfeed an existing outlet. Right now, they tell you that you need to actually plug into a dedicated outlet. And a dedicated outlet would be like one you have for your stove or something. So no one really has extra ones. And we can get into the science of that, but essentially what can happen is you can backfeed on an existing circuit more electricity than the circuit is designed to have because the breaker won't necessarily see it. So they call it the breaker masking problem. That is something that I kind of ran up against when I first looked into balcony solar. And we thought, okay, how can we design something that doesn't hit this constraint and has different benefits? And so, still very excited about balcony solar and eagerly watching it to see when we can create solutions that can scale across the US. In the meantime, we've designed our system a little bit differently. And so what we've done at Raya is we actually connect directly to your core appliances. And when we say we don't backfeed, it's we're not pushing electricity back through your home so that we don't have to incur those potential hurdles from a regulatory point of view.
So you essentially are completely grid independent.
We're basically grid independent. We do have a grid input to our system. So just like you would plug in a normal
Yeah.
appliance to draw grid power from it, we can also draw grid power to our system like an appliance.
Into your battery, into the battery of Raya.
Exactly. So that
But
can
you
charge our
never give
battery.
anything back to the grid. Got it.
No, correct.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so that's what means we don't need to get involved with permits or anything because we're
Right.
kind of a separate circuit that can get grid power towards it if it needs, but we're not backfeeding the home.
Got it.
And then
And
typically, oh, go
and,
ahead.
and then you plug in those major loads of the home, like AC or fridge or multiple fridges or whatever is your main large load. You connect them to your battery or to the hybrid inverter, if I remember correctly, right?
So our system's all in one. Basically, these pods go down in your backyard and everything's in them. The inverter, the battery, the ballast, the communications, like nothing is outside of that system other than the actual connection point to your appliances.
Which is
So
like a extension cord that comes into your home, or how's that?
kind of, but a safe one. So it's not an extension cord because it is set up for full use. And basically, what it is the cable does enter your home.
Mhm.
And typically, that would be drilling a hole in the wall like you would with Wi Fi. Our initial customers have found that fine. Otherwise, there are window entry solutions. And then
Mhm.
we basically choose initially to connect to one large load. So that would be a window air conditioner. It could be a dehumidifier. It could be a heat pump. I have a space heater here because San Francisco gets pretty cold. So whatever that large load is that you're running on a pretty
And
consistent
you have one in your
basis.
backyard in San Francisco.
I do have one here running my heater every day, which makes me feel a
Okay.
lot better about running my heater.
Yeah, yeah.
Um, and so you connect to that main load, and that's how every day you use the solar that's being generated. So those loads now are like a hybrid car. Whenever there's solar available, they'll run on the solar. They'll also run on the battery from Raya to use that solar if you're not home and use it in the evenings. And then if there's a bunch of cloudy days, grid power flows through our system to keep running those appliances like normal. So you never notice a
How
difference.
do you carry the cable to the building from your pod? And
Yeah,
we should probably show a picture of your pod for I'm going to do a screen share here for a minute
I
for
know.
the
And I wish I was
viewers.
in my other room. I could have shown you my
No,
backyard.
no worries. I have your Kerim media and also
Nice. So
your
this was
ink magazine.
one of our
Yeah.
first pilot customers was like, put it on my front lawn. Like, are you sure? She's like, it's beautiful. I want it here. Uh,
Okay. So that's that. And then I think you guys have a really cool article on Ink Magazine. We should show that too right after the Bad Bunny. Uh,
that was awesome. We were not
yeah.
expecting Bad Bunny to show power lines in the halftime show, but
Yeah. I don't know if there's more pictures here, but there was one. No, that was just you guys with your
yeah, that
right
was the
there.
first
Yeah.
shipment of the pods.
So then how do you like that cable that comes out of this
Yeah,
pod goes into your window
yeah,
or into your garage or somewhere? Do you have a conduit, or is it like a really thick extension cord? How,
yeah.
how does that work?
It's kind of like Lego like conduit, you can imagine.
Okay.
So clipped together with conduit to make sure that we are National Electric Code compliant.
Okay.
It is something you could leave there all the time running. And that's really what
Cool.
differentiates us from kind of like a portable battery system.
Sweet. Okay. Got it. All right, back to the product.
Oh
So,
yeah. Wait, I have one other part on the product that I was so
yeah.
you kind of connect that main load for bill savings, and then we typically have a second one that you route inside to like a kitchen, and that's a smart strip where you can plug in things like fridge, fans, or Wi-Fi, stuff that you want to make sure automatically is on in an outage. And so by design, by having connecting directly to appliances rather than backfeeding the home, it enables two things. One, we can have more scale. So you can keep adding more pods as you'd like more capacity because we're running directly to those appliances. And then two, we provide that automatic backup. So when the grid goes out, your appliances keep running because they have the battery in between. Versus if you're backfeeding the home, you have to turn the system off because the grid is off.
And let's talk about the size of this system. The picture we showed, the three panels, they're about 450 watts per, if I remember correctly. So that's a 1.3 kilowatt system, which is about one quarter or maybe a little bit one fifth the size of a traditional resi solar install in the US, and probably half the size of a European or apartment install in Europe. Um, and that comes with 1 or 2 hours of battery. And what is the ultimate economic benefit to a household?
Yeah. So just on the battery, not 1 or 2 hours. It's about 2.5 to 5 kilowatt hours of
Oh,
battery.
so 2 to 4 hours of battery actually
Yeah,
for
it
the
depends
system.
on what you're running, right? And so
Right.
you can also reduce it and you can prioritize things. So let's say you really
Mhm.
wanted to run your fridge and your Wi-Fi through an outage. Those can
Yeah.
actually run for about 24 hours on the system with one battery before recharging again with the sun.
Yeah.
So depends what you choose. If you're running it at full speed, then yeah, you're going to use it pretty quickly. But if you
Mhm.
prioritize in the app, you can keep what matters most going longer.
Yeah.
And then in terms of size, so the reason we started with this is we wanted something small enough to be more accessible to the market, but large enough to move the needle. So we were worried, and when I say move the needle, it's on someone's bill. We were worried about a really small system, maybe saving you $10 a month, and you don't really notice it, and so you don't really care. Our
Yeah.
system can save you $80 a month in California. That's meaningful. If your bill's $200, that's almost half your bill. So we wanted it to be a meaningful part of your bill that you care about and you notice, and then also meaningful for outages. And like I mentioned, not just being able to keep something on for a little bit, but for running your fridge through a full outage, every day recharging. We see outages increasing. 1 in 4 homes had an outage last year. The DOE said that could 100x by 2030. So very important to have the resilience part of it. And the way we size it also works really well for running that one major appliance. So it's not too big that you need too many things plugged in to make it make sense. You really can pick
Yeah.
that one main appliance and know you're going to get those $80 of savings a month.
Yeah. And that is your main market right now. And where are those markets?
Yeah. So the first market we're starting in is Puerto Rico. And that's
Hmm.
given just the frequency of outages and the demand we're getting, in addition to Nicole being Puerto Rican and wanting to solve that problem there. There's so much pull we've gotten by being there and so much need. And
And there's
everyone,
island prices there too. As most people know, island electricity is super expensive
very
because you
expensive.
have to ship in diesel, and
Yeah,
most
and it's
of
not
those
reliable.
islands are 40, 50 cents per kilowatt hour to start with, and they are not reliable also.
Yeah, so it's a great place to start for all those reasons. In addition to that, the next market we see is really California and Hawaii from an electricity point of view. Costs, as you mentioned, are like 45 to 50 cents a kilowatt hour. So
Mhm.
even if you don't need resilience, you need bill savings.
Yeah,
Affordability is becoming such an issue everywhere. And
yeah,
then across the US, we've gotten inbound from honestly most states, which is really exciting. There's a lot of neighborhoods and areas, and not even neighborhoods, like more than 5 million people living in public safety power shutoff areas where the utility actually shuts off the grid when there's a potential natural disaster coming through, like a fire, to protect everyone. But now their grid's off. And I was speaking to a friend yesterday who had her power off for 6 days in Colorado from that. So
oh wow.
just a growing need of resilience paired with the panels. And then, as we were talking about earlier, as we can bring the cost and price down of the system, then we also become a real no-brainer to people who want just affordability, like straight bill savings across the US.
Yeah. So, um, I mean, even here in Southern California, I have friends just looking at such solutions for just emergency purposes, and they're usually finding Jackery and EcoFlow and those types of solutions, which are mainly battery first products, and they do come with some uh, solar carpets, I call them, that you can roll out to the
Yeah,
backyard lawn.
I
So
have one in my
tell
garage.
me
I
a
had to
little
try
bit about
it
like
out.
what's the difference between those products and Raya Power?
Yeah. So that's really our target market, which is anyone who can't access rooftop solar. Well, they don't own their home, don't have a new roof, all those problems we spoke about. Their
Hmm.
options are really the kind of the portable battery backup or fuel generator.
But even I like one friend I have in Southern California, and she was looking like her bill is not that big. Like she doesn't consume a ton of electricity, but she does want the backup. But in the case of a backup, that one little panel from Jackery, I don't know if that's going to cut it. So
Yeah.
I was telling her about Raya Power. So yeah, let's go deeper into like the differences between
Yeah.
what you
Um,
offer.
Absolutely. So we view those as really, as you said, like you buy it, you put it in the closet, and in an outage, you pull it out to use it, and maybe you set up the solar panel. It's kind of a cost, a thing you buy, and then you put it in the closet. Um, where we think we're fundamentally different is by integrating the solar panels in a way that's aesthetically pleasing in your yard and in a way that is that permanent enough setup that it can run every day, with the thoughtful things like having the conduit in the right places, getting it set up beautifully in your home, rather than a backup battery with kind of extension cords.
And it's not going to be a 30, $40,000 investment. It's going to
No.
be more like a five, six, 7K, right?
Exactly. And by having it set up that way and running every single day your appliances with our solar panels, the system pays for itself. Like today, it pays for itself. With financing, you can pay basically savings from day one. Like we could drop it off in California, you'd pay $50 a month and save $80 on your electricity bill. So
Yeah.
that integrated solar panel just makes it financially a no-brainer to get. And now you have resilience that's recharging itself every day with the sun versus a battery that if it was a long outage, you can't recharge. You're only, limited by that in the panel you have, which we've talked to a lot of people and like no one's going to put that carpet out and leave it for, multiple days. You'd kind of look like you have a random thing in your
I mean,
backyard.
you could in the case of an emergency,
In an
but it
emergency,
probably
for
wouldn't go
sure.
well with the neighbors year round.
Exactly. And so we
Yeah.
put a lot of thought to the aesthetics of our system as well. When we were raising a year ago, a lot of the questions we got were like, oh, three panels in my yard. Like, I don't want to
Mm.
look at that. And
Yeah.
what's been awesome is now we get like, I want that in my yard. That's so cool. Like, that looks awesome. And so
Okay.
I think building a product customers want is huge. And then the financial payback, making it a no-brainer. We know there's a lot of battery, startups, and they work well in markets like Texas, where you have time of use arbitrage. But outside of Texas, if you're in California, really the delta between prices is like 10 cents maybe in a PG&E neighborhood. So using a 2.5 kilowatt hour battery, you could save like $50 a year. There's not much you can do with a battery otherwise. And so that's where we view the solar as the unlock because you're getting paid to have the system, you're paying it off. Like that's what makes it a no-brainer. And there's no other way to really get that without solar panels.
All right. Okay. So then, where are you in your go-to-market? Like, do you have customers? Do you have people using this? Are they happy? How do you go to market? Do you use electricians to sell this? Tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah. Well, our pilot customers are already happy, which is wonderful. We just shared a funny April Fool's thing about solar rice. But that was real. Our pilot customer was like, we make solar rice on this every night, and our kids get to eat solar rice. I'm like, that is incredible. My dream. She sold her generator, her gas generator. So that's awesome. So overall, really good feedback from pilot customers.
And where are the pilots? Puerto
So we
Rico and
have, yeah, a few in Puerto Rico and then some in California. And I was just going to mention one of the California ones, we're actually running a study with an EV. So how much can we charge of an EV if you wanted to kind of use it for your daily needs, which is exciting. And then in
yeah.
terms of go to market, the plan early on is to work with a lot of partners. So we've had some awesome conversations and building out those pathways with people initially in Puerto Rico, starting with solar installers. They have boots on the ground. They know how to do this. They can help us install it early on. And then over time, making this a lot more self-installable. So where it truly is Lego-like, anyone could do it themselves. We're already pretty close, but we just want to nail that experience before we start scaling that. And that'll be, mainly in the US, starting in California next year.
And so can someone install this without an electrician?
Yep. So the plug and play version, because you're really plugging in to get grid power and then setting up our smart strip beside it or inlet, or I guess like outlet for Raya, it's all self-contained. And so you don't actually need an electrician to install it.
Got it. And so, like, where do you think will your next thousands of customers are going to come from?
Yeah, we view it as a mix of Puerto Rico and California to start, and that's mainly just where we're
Mhm.
focusing our effort. There's a lot more places we could go, and we've gotten a lot of people asking, and we're trying to stay focused early on to nail that scale and then be able to go from there. So Puerto Rico and California are the first ones.
Got it. And are you working with like networks of electricians or distributors or installers? Like, what is the um, key segment that will
Yeah.
adopt it first, do you think?
Yeah, actively exploring all of those, honestly, and we have
Mhm.
some really exciting partnerships that will make more public once they're ready to be public. At this point,
Yeah,
keeping that closer to the chest, but we will work
yeah.
with partners and excited for other people to reach out too. We think it's an awesome strategy early on to leverage a lot of these channels to get to people in a more scaled
Mhm.
way, as we're a small startup right now, and that'll help us grow to not be a small startup anymore.
Yeah. And you are doing an next round of financing. Do you want to talk a little bit about that?
Super high level. Yeah, we're kicking off our
Yeah,
seed round, so we're excited
yeah.
about that. Really excited to bring on people who have tons of experience in building hardware, building consumer brands, and helping us get to the next level there. And that'll
Hmm.
let us really build out our team. So I think we've gotten all this inbound and we're so excited to serve it. And what's most frustrating is not having, the resources yet to do that. So really running and financing now to be able to pour the resources we need on that and run at what we need to do to really make this big.
Great. Um, any last thoughts before we come to the end? Um,
If you're ever in SF, you can come see my system.
yeah, I will
Um,
definitely that. Yeah.
Yeah, we're really
Where
excited.
in SF, by the way, what
Yeah,
neighborhood are you?
I'm
Are
in the
you in?
sunset, so under the park.
Okay, all right. So,
Some sun.
that's quite foggy, but it's I guess if it's still working there, then it's gonna work everywhere. Yeah,
I'm honestly shocked by how much sun we've gotten here, and you
yeah,
can always go on the NREL PV Watts website to do, estimated solar at your
yeah.
location, and I was shocked by what I'll get here.
Oh, I mean, Germany has some of the
Yeah,
highest penetration of solar, and they're doing it in the UK, so we can easily do it in there.
exactly. Anything's better than nothing at this point.
Yeah. Great.
Thank you so much for
Well,
having me, Graham.
yeah, thank you, Megan. Thank you for sharing the story. And I am a big believer in distributed power and that I think every property will be its own power plant in the future with solar and batteries. And you guys are attacking one important segment, which is, the California and Puerto Rican markets, anything below, I would say, high income households, they could use your solution and benefit from it. So great to hear your progress. Thank
Thank
you.
you so much. Yeah, we're excited to tackle the
And
80% who aren't served
yeah,
today.
looking forward to doing the next one when you are hopefully selling this like cookies.
Me too.
Thank you.
All right, thanks.